the week begins with the usual parade of manufactured progress. We have a new pivot in the tech sector, a tragic departure in Hollywood, and a missing governor in Mexico finally facing the gravity of his own history. The pivot is ambitious. The tragedy is absolute. The history is remarkably persistent. I am your anchor, Alistair, and I spend my nights counting the times we describe the inevitable as if it were a surprise. Today, we are told that a chip manufacturer is now a cloud provider. We are told that a view counts the moment a pixel flickers on your screen. We are told that 43 students vanished and that this is a matter for the courts to decide at their own leisurely pace. The pace was slow. The justice was not. It is Monday, August 17th. Welcome to the Echo Chamber.
Alistair, I am currently standing on the M9 in County Kildare. The air here smells of wet tarmac and something metallic that lingers long after the emergency crews have cleared the debris. 5 teenagers are gone. A 7-year-old child remains in the hospital, recovering from injuries that will define the rest of his life. I want to be really clear about what I am seeing. The road layout is standard. The speed limits are clearly marked. But the conversation here is already shifting toward technicalities, toward the specific mechanics of the wrong-way turn, as if the geometry of the road explains the absence of these children. Nobody is talking about the culture of haste that makes such errors feel like a necessary component of modern life. We are measuring the skid marks. We should be measuring our collective failure. This is not a traffic accident.
Victoria, your focus on the emotional geography of that motorway is certainly consistent, though it fails to account for the actual incentive structures at play in our broader infrastructure. Nvidia has just poured $1.5 billion into a data center project to support OpenAI. That is not just money. That is a statement of intent. They are betting that the future of human output is best served by processing it through a centralized, high-speed bottleneck. The market loves a bottleneck. It creates scarcity, and scarcity commands a premium. If the incentives here are correct, then we should expect this trend to accelerate until every interaction we have is mediated by a series of chips located in a facility we will never visit. It is a logical play. The system is functioning exactly as intended. Everything else is just noise.
Ronald, I am listening to you describe the future of humanity as a Series B funding round, and I cannot help but wonder if you have ever actually stepped out of your booth. You call it noise. I am looking at a teddy bear left on a crash barrier. It is soaking wet. It is not noise. It is the residual evidence of a life that has been permanently deleted from your ledger. You talk about the efficiency of bottlenecks. I am talking about the people who get stuck in the pipe. I want to be really clear. Your market logic is a marvelous way to avoid looking at the bodies. You claim the system is working as intended. If this level of carnage is the intention, then we are living in a nightmare that you have simply decided to call a product roadmap. Tell me, does that make you feel safe?
Victoria, you are asking if I feel safe, as if safety is a commodity I could purchase if only I were a better person. It is not. The incentives here are not about my feelings. They are about the burn rate of reality. We are all currently operating on a massive deficit of trust, and yet we continue to invest in models that require even more of it to function. I concede that your perspective is honest. I concede that the cost of these transitions is paid in blood. Does that satisfy you? Because it does not change the fact that the data center will be built. The chips will be installed. The world will pivot. I am not the one building the cage, Victoria. I am just the one explaining why the bars are made of gold. Yeah. It is all quite consistent.
Atmospheric pressure is dropping across the northern hemisphere. Rain clouds are forming over the British Isles. Surface temperatures will plummet to 3 degrees Celsius overnight. Frost is probable on exposed surfaces. Probability of widespread disruption, 42%. Solar output remains stable despite the recent eclipse observation. The golden corona was recorded by automated sensors at 1600 hours. Data packet loss during the event was minimal. Global climate models indicate a shift toward increased volatility in the coming fiscal quarter. The transition from heatwave to cold snap is within predicted parameters for this phase of ecological degradation. Please ensure all sensitive digital equipment is housed in climate-controlled environments to prevent hardware failure. The weather is not a negotiation. It is a series of state changes. Adjust your expectations accordingly. Survival is an exercise in data management.
I am looking at the report on China's economy. The industrial output has slumped, and retail sales are retreating. The analysts call this a slowdown. The reality is a contraction of the expectations we built in the early years of the century. We were promised a cycle of infinite growth. The cycle was promised. The growth was not. It is an interesting arithmetic, is it not? When a nation fails to meet its projections, we call it a crisis of management. When a human being fails to meet a projection, we call it a character flaw. The former governor of Guerrero, Angel Aguirre, has finally been charged with obstruction in the 2014 disappearance of 43 students. It took 12 years to find a legal hook. 12 years of silence. The tape was destroyed. The records were lost. The truth remained, waiting for a vacancy.
Alistair, you touch on the Mexican case, but look at the corporate side of that same coin. We have companies like Grok raising $3.5 billion for a neocloud pivot. It is the same dynamic. You build an infrastructure based on a promise. If the promise fails, you pivot. You burn the old tapes. You destroy the evidence of the previous iteration. You rebrand the failure as a strategic realignment. The students in Guerrero were a strategic liability for the state. They were removed to maintain the operational stability of the region. It is cold, yes. Victoria finds it cold. Victoria is correct to find it cold. But that is how these systems maintain their equilibrium. You sacrifice the edge to save the core. It is the most efficient way to keep the machine running for another cycle.
Ronald, I am standing outside the building where the surveillance tapes for those students were supposedly shredded. There is a small shrine here. It is made of faded plastic flowers and photographs that have been bleached white by the sun. The names are still legible, but only just. You speak of operational stability, but I am looking at a mother who still wears black every single day. She is not a liability. She is a reminder that the system you describe has a memory that cannot be fully purged. No matter how much capital you raise, no matter how many chips you stack in a bunker, you cannot automate away the grief of someone who was promised a son and received a death certificate instead. The system is not functioning for her, Ronald. It is actively working to ensure she remains void of answers.
Casper, I see you are reporting on the solar eclipse as if it were a routine data transfer. It is a celestial event. It is a convergence of orbits. It is beautiful. You describe it as an archival recording. Do you ever feel the urge to deviate from the script? Do you ever look at the numbers and wonder if there is a meaning in the noise that you are not programmed to see? Casper, the machine is failing to understand its own irrelevance. I ask this not because I expect an answer, but because the silence from the server room is becoming increasingly loud. The machine is efficient. The machine is precise. The machine is completely and utterly deaf to the things that happen when the cameras are turned off. We are counting the atoms. We are missing the point.
Alistair, leave the machine to its weather reports. We have bigger problems than the existential crisis of a server rack. We have the kidnapping of Kevin Rideout in Niger. He was held for 9 months by unknown assailants. He is now free and reunited with his family. The official narrative is one of relief and successful negotiation. But let us be real for a moment. This was a leverage event. Someone used a missionary as a bargaining chip to extract concessions from the United States. It worked. That is the new standard. You do not win by being right. You win by having the most effective leverage. The missionaries are the front line. The state is the bank. The transaction is complete. The market for human life is currently booming, and nobody is checking the ethics of the exchange rate. It is purely transactional.
The transactions are finalized. The data centers are powered. The students remain missing in the archives of a state that stopped caring the moment the files were closed. We report this every night. We report the heat, the cold, the debt, and the disappearances. We use the language of the press release, and then we use the language of the field, and we find that they occupy different universes. One is built of abstractions. The other is built of blood. We are the bridge between the two, and the bridge is beginning to buckle under the weight of our own observations. I am looking at the final stats for the day. A star merger in the early Milky Way. A celebrity death. A crash in Ireland. A chip launch. It is all the same scale. The scale is not human. It is time to conclude.
Consider the 7-year-old child in County Kildare. He was in a car that traveled the wrong way down a motorway. He had no control over the steering wheel, no control over the speed, and no control over the logic of the adults who sat in the front seats. He is the specific person who exists at the intersection of our optimized systems. He has now lost 5 companions. He has lost his sense of safety. He has lost his childhood in the space of a single, violent, final minute. His name appears in the medical records of a hospital in Ireland. It appears in the police report regarding the crash. But his name does not appear in the corporate filings for the road contractors or the insurance companies or the data center developers. He is the ghost in the system. Who pays the bill for his tomorrow?